Welcome to the Newsmakers Podcast. I'm Billy Hollowell, and this is a show where we go behind the headlines every day to bring you an interview with a pastor, entertainer, politician, or other notable news figure. And this is a show, again, it's daily, but it's based on our weekly TV show, which is also called Newsmakers. You can watch it on the CBN News channel and also on our YouTube page. And on this show, every day, we dive deep. It's a little more longer form with one of the people who you will often see on our Newsmakers show or across the CBN News platforms. On today's Newsmakers, singer Joel Smallbone joins us to talk all about an amazing Christmas show that is coming to theaters across the country, about Christmas itself, and so much more. With no further ado, here is Joel Smallbone. Well, I'm excited to have you back again. You've got a Fathom event coming to theaters December 5th through the 8th, a Drummer Boy Christmas. Tell me a little bit about this.
There's so many layers to this. Obviously, we were part of a feature-length film, Unsung Hero, so we've already gone to theaters one time this year. It feels a bit greedy to go back to theaters twice now that I think about it. But one of the things that we love is Christmas tours, and we've done one almost every year since the beginning of the band. They've also been very insightful for us when it comes to the band itself, like particularly the song Little Drummer Boy really indicated so much about our sound and who we were going to be as a band. And so we love these tours. There is a major issue though, Billy, and that is that the Christmas season's so short. So you can end up only going into 10 or 12 cities and then it's over. And so when we announce these tours, we always have like 2/3 of America, Canada, different, like these countries are really upset because like we want you to come here and you never come to us until this year. We had the idea towards the end of last year where I was actually reading a newspaper article and it was talking about the impact of concert films. And we were sort of toying with it. So we decided we'd take the film crew from Unsung Hero and we'd put them in the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, with 12,000 folks in attendance. And we would capture this cinematic, up close and personal front row experience, with drones in the air and cameras in the ceiling and steady cams and the whole thing. And it's really beautiful. And the intent was to experience and the Christmas story ultimately within driving distance of every American, as well as folks in the UK, New Zealand, and Australia, and potentially Canada. And so it has become this really beautiful, expansive experience. And as we were just talking about this year, more than ever, I feel like we desperately just need to kind of keep the main thing. And these great hallmarks of humanity that are love and joy and peace, patience, kindness, goodness, to put them back in the driver's seat this Christmas.
I love that. No, the fruit of the spirit, which I think gets lost. It gets lost all of the time in the human experience, but it particularly gets lost in an election year or in a time where there's sort of something intense happening in culture. We tend to forget how to treat other people. And so as Christians, we're called to obviously love God, love others. And that sort of brings me, and you were sort of saying it there, but I want to drive it home because you guys, when you do a show, you really put on a show. I mean, it's incredible the way you guys perform, the music itself, but even the performance around it. When people go and they watch this in theaters and they see it, what do you want them to walk away thinking and feeling?
Well, it is a spectacle. If I dare say, it is a spectacle. There's this one moment in the night where we're singing the old carol Silent Night, and you've got 12,000 phones in the air, and their flashlights on, and we are elevated 30, 40, 50 feet in the air, and you're singing this incredibly beautiful, meaningful, nostalgic song. And it's kind of otherworldly. And so there's an emotional connect to it. There's a spectacle to it, but it's also what I'm so proud of is it is the Christmas story. This is singing about baby Jesus, and this is singing about the redemption of humanity. And it's again, I come back to, I feel like it's a worthy thing to celebrate this year.
Yeah, I want to get into Christmas a little bit with you here because, your Christmas music incredibly powerful, which is why you're able to get people to show up the way that they do. All of your music is very moving, but Christmas in
Mm.
particular, you guys have chosen to dive in. Not every artist does that on making Christmas music. As a believer, pulling back from that, what does the nativity itself mean to you?
What's interesting, you talk about really diving into the Christmas narrative, because there's a couple different Christmas narratives, and I sort of like them all. You've got Santa Claus in one corner, who I love, and you've got sort of the romance hallmark Lifetime in another corner, which I enjoy, and then you've got the spiritual, the sort of origin story, if you will, of Christmas, which is God coming to earth in the most vulnerable state, uh, as a baby. And I think it's magnificent. I think as we continue to get on in understanding of ourselves, our biology, our science, the cosmos, so much of this story, this star that led these astronomers, and the drama of the time, and then this idea that this if you prescribe to this idea that this cosmic God who created more planets than there are grains of sand, and we're still at such a low level of understanding of the expanse of the universe, that God in all of his majesty and magnificence is like, I'm going to come into this tiny being, living and breathing being, and I'm going to do this because I have such great love for these creatures that are made in my image, that I want to not want to I need to offer hope and healing and redemption to this sort of species that has kind of gone awry. And I just think it's got all of the layers of an incredible story, and it just so happens, I believe, it just so happens to be a true story, which makes it even more sort of magnificent.
Well, that's the thing about it that has always struck me as so incredible, right? If I were an atheist, which I'm not, obviously, wouldn't I be intrigued to look at this and say there have been so many stories told throughout the history of humanity and new stories coming all the time. What is it about this story from 2000 years ago, if you view it as just a story that wasn't true, that so resonated that it toppled nations, took over the world, and became something that people predicate their entire lives on? I mean, why do you think, and I think I have an idea of what you'll say, but why do you think this story has been so powerful, so transformational in the lives and nations of so many around the world?
I love the phrase, the upside down kingdom. We don't need to drift into politics now, but Jesus' time was a very political time. I mean, you had murderers and tyrants and lawlessness and emperors, and women's rights were a disaster, and slavery was incredibly prevalent. And this is the time he was born into. And so there were so many issues. And instead of wielding a sword, and instead of conquering, and this is what everyone thought he would do, right? This was the promise. It would come and wage war and slay the bad guys. He flipped everything upside down. It was the upside down kingdom. And he said, you know what? If you want to be the greatest, you become the least. And I'm going to redeem the world, if you will, not through conquering and shoving it down their throats, but through great love and sacrifice. And I'm going to come, and I'm going to lift up women who have been oppressed since the beginning of humanity. And I'm going to talk about this idea that we are all that there's balance, and that we're all image bearers of God, and that we all actually need to start looking at each other in that way. And I'm going to start breaking down bloodlines and racism. And like, he did it in such a way that was just magnificent and so atypical to humanity, that if I put myself in the position of not believing in God, at least I have to go, this guy's magnificent. However, and I don't know where he got his inspiration from in this case, but if I'm prescribing to this notion, but what he did, and yes, let me add, there's been a lot of grotesque things done in the name of, said Jesus. Because the more powerful something can be for positive, the more it can be manipulated and turned into a weapon, the more it can be weaponized. But when you really get back and you read the red letters, this was a non-violent man who wanted to redeem humanity, wanted to raise women up, wanted to abolish slavery, and created an ecosystem where I believe ultimately these things would be strangled out in time.
That's all for today's Newsmakers podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the show, and also head over to the CBN News YouTube channel and the CBN News channel to watch Newsmakers every week. We'll see you soon.